Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meet. My name is Martha. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. And you can find me at eroscoaching.com. Today we're talking about relationships, and today's title is How Can I Love My Partner Back to Save My Marriage? Today Nina Porter will reveal ways to be more open-hearted, both toward ourselves and others, in order to improve all of our relationships. We have a 24/7 relationship with ourselves, so how we feel and interact with ourselves is reflected in our interactions with others and in our inherent need for growth and learning or our soul's evolution. And we have a potent formula for creating a new experience of love in our life. A little bit more about our guest Nina Porter. She has a lot of passion in pitching love's pebbles into the pond of humanity and watching as those love ripples expand. And she does this by saving marriages and mending broken hearts using proven methods with wisdom, compassion, and humor. She supports hurt and often desperate and confused partners while helping them become healthy couples who reignite their friendship connection, passion, and commitment. Being a lifelong learner of self-proclaimed education junkie, she studies the most effective transformational methods for building self-love and relationship skills. Her thousands of hours of client experience builds on that growing and emergent field of knowledge. So Nina is taking her coaching practice to the water and offering couples retreats on a sailboat or resort if you prefer land. And you can work with her either by Skype or phone in private sessions, and you can contact her through her website, playinyourmarriage.com. So welcome, Nina.
Thank you, Martha.
So we connected through the Relationship Coach Institute group, and I really admire your work working with couples. So tell us a little bit more what you mean by how someone can love their partner back to save their marriage.
Well, when marriages get troubled, it's because they've become disconnected emotionally. It starts there. The disconnect starts there. Then it shows up in the bedroom, and that's where you come in. And the way to love your partner back is to start with yourself and self-soothing and getting to know what your truth is, getting reconnected with your inner self and your feelings. That's another place where your work would come in. Being connected to what you're feeling and letting go of our own personal judgments allows us to let go of our judgments of our partner and change the dance. It changes the dance that drove us apart and allows us to reconnect from a place of love and understanding.
Mm.
Sounds kind of theoretical, but I like to get a lot more practical in my work.
Mm. Any practical advice of how someone can do that?
Yes, I think starting with loving ourselves, I think having a practice of well-being where we remember that's our natural state. It is our natural place to be in well-being. but we're culturally conditioned to think that we're victims and to go into the poor me. But really, when we do that, we're trading our well-being. I like to compare to, like, you break your shoelace and you have a meltdown. You know, when we're on a really stressed out time in our lives, it builds and builds, and then we're stressed at work, we're stressed with kids, we're stressed with daily life, and then our shoelace breaks. So really, do we want to trade our well-being for a broken shoelace? Do we want to trade our well-being for anything when it's the most important thing we have? So my first work is always looking at, how do I remember who I am and remember that well-being and find that well-being in spite of what's happening around us.
I like what you're saying. How do I remember who I am?
Yes. Because the first time I heard that, I was walking the park, I was listening to an audio, being that education junkie. This was 25 years ago, maybe. I was listening to this audio tape, and I heard the person on the tape talk about remembering who they really are, and it rocked me to my core. It was one of those floodgate moments where it was so thunderous a revelation to me that's like, yeah, if I remember who I really am, if I just go inside and connect to the part of me that's connected to the great, the all, and the everything. I mean, if you have a spiritual practice, which I'm thinking most of your listeners do, or they wouldn't be in this, that Creator, having that connection with Creator, remembering who you really are, it changes everything.
Beautiful. What are some examples of ways people can return to themselves and remember who they are? I know it sounds pretty obvious, but sometimes the obvious does need to be said.
Yes, and it's not always obvious if we've never experienced it. So I think starting with the well-being, remembering that underneath all the noise of what our mind is telling us and what our enculturation is, when we can go within and go underneath all of that and reconnect in a moment of quiet. So getting ourselves quiet, even if we're in a noisy atmosphere, we can still go quiet within ourselves.
Okay. Yes, I'm listening. Go quiet within ourselves.
Yes, and then taking time to consider what gives us joy and feeding our souls. I know at one point I lost a job, and when I woke up from the grief of having lost that job, I made the decision, I'm never going to work another job that doesn't feed my soul. And then what I discovered was that applied to everything in my life. That all the moments in my life, I can assess and say, is this feeding my soul? Does this feel good in my soul? And the reason I like that distinction is because things might feel, eating a bag of chips or an ice cream cone might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't feed our soul. At some level, we get that it's a distraction, and it's not actually feeding our inner soul. But when we can focus in the heart and get our heart's response. So that would be another practice, is breathing. One of the gifts on my website is an article by Dr. Childre at HeartMath, where he talks about breathing in and out of your heart. So you're breathing in and out, preferably doing it like a belly breathing, but you're imagining that the breath is coming in and out of your heart, so that you can connect to your heart and then allow your heart to guide you. And your heart will guide you in ways that your mind and your ego will never do.
Yeah. Beautiful practice. Okay, so you're mentioning go quiet within ourselves, consider what gives us joy, and being able to differentiate that with distractions. Then a practice of breathing in and out through our hearts. And you mentioned how to do that, connecting with our belly breath and then visualizing the breathing coming in and out through our heart. And I suppose from all that, slowing down enough so that your heart can begin to guide you. So these are some ways in which we can begin to start remembering who we are.
Yes, exactly.
Great. So we're coming up for a break very soon, and we are with Nina Porter. We're talking about how you can love your partner back to save your marriage. And Nina is a relationship coach, and she has a 5-part e-course, Getting the Love You Need, as well as a special report on 5 ways to stop doing if your relationship is troubled, along with several other favorite tools, all free on her website. That's playinyourmarriage.com. You can find her on Twitter, that's Nina Porter Coach, and on Facebook, Nina Porter Coach. And we're just waiting for the break to come up. We're talking about how to love your partner back to save your marriage. And the premise of what we're talking about really today is learning how to be more open-hearted towards ourselves and others in order to improve all of our relationships. This is so important when it comes to growing and learning and for our soul's evolution. So more after this break.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. You're listening to our show on the Own Times Radio Network, and you can share this show with your friends by sending them the link owntimes.com/mobile. With this link, you will be able to listen to this show without needing to download any app. You can listen to this on your phone, wherever you are, and it's really convenient. So do share this link, owntimes.com/mobile, and the show will be live. We're with Nina Porter, and we're talking about how you can love your partner back to save your marriage. And just before the break, we were talking about the ways in which you can begin to love yourselves, because this is your natural state of well-being, and that is so important when it comes to being able to be in loving relationships with other people. So we talked about the importance of focusing on ourselves and loving ourselves. So Nina, how does that help our partner if we are focusing all on ourselves?
Great question, Martha. One of the ways that happens is, first of all, it allows you to get clarity so that you can let your partner know what it is that you're looking for. Now, in bed or when you're having sex, that's a hugely important skill, to be able to communicate clearly what it is that gives you joy. And it helps you to get clear enough so that you can articulate what it is that you're wanting in your relationship, and it gives you an opportunity to model for your partner to do the same, to go inward and consider those things themselves. I don't know if you have children, you're acutely aware that modeling is the fastest way people learn. We, in fact, have mirror neurons in our brains that are there to help us to model what other people are doing. So the fastest and best way to help our partners is for us to show them how to be. So it starts with us, and then they can learn from us.
Beautiful. So focusing on yourself is actually the best way in which you can help yourself, because you're communicating through your life and actions to your partner, and then your partners will in time be able to mirror it back to you.
Exactly.
Beautiful. And what about the other person? The spouse. Don't they determine whether you get to be happy too? Don't they need to step up and work on themselves or the relationships?
Well, in an ideal, perfect world, that would happen, and they will change when we change. However, we can't make anyone else change. If you've ever tried, you've probably noticed that the harder you try to make someone else change, the more resistance you get, and the more they rebel. So rather than changing someone else, when we step up and we change the dance step that we are doing, it's very similar to like a mobile, or you'll see mobiles, they often have them in babies in their cribs, where you change one, if you touch one hanging piece on that mobile, the whole mobile changes, and the relationship between every part of that mobile changes. So it's very much like that. When we change anything about ourselves, the other person senses it, and they will respond to it in some way. Now, as far as being happy, if we're relying on something outside of ourselves to be happy, we're never going to be able to be happy, because we have zero control over our external environment. The only thing we can control is ourselves, and we get to choose our attitude.
I love what you're sharing here on today's show. You're talking about the need to focus on loving ourselves, and from there, perhaps your partner will begin to shift, and it's not really about them not stepping up. It's about not forcing them to change when they're not ready to. So I just want to be clear that what you're saying is not that your partner, the spouse, doesn't need to change. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Because we don't have control over things outside of us, external to us, the fastest way to find that better place is to go within and find out what it is that we are needing. And I know this, I've tested this, we call it kitchen tested, myself. Whenever I'm not happy with my spouse, I can find what I'm not happy with myself. There's something that I'm not doing for myself that I'm mad at him for not doing for me. And I've yet to ever find a situation where I'm not finding it. Sometimes it's a stretch, and and sometimes it takes me a day or two. And yet I still find where it's like, okay, they're just a reflection of what I'm experiencing. So if I've got a finger pointed at my spouse, I've got 3 fingers pointing back at myself. So if I'm thinking, well, they're not stepping up or they're not being responsible, I can always find a place in myself where I'm not doing that. And then I'm taking that judgment, I'm projecting it onto them. And when I turn it around and just say, well, how can I be different? What can I do for myself? I have control over that. I can't control what they do. I only have control over what I do. So when I turn it back, then I can address it, stop judging myself for that part of me, because our shadow shows up. I don't want to get into a whole lot about shadow, but shadow is there. It's our growth edge. And it's the part of us that we don't like. It's the part of us that we judge harshly. We try to cover it up. We try to hide it. And that shadow part is going to show up in all of our relationships. I don't know if you've ever noticed if there's something that bugs you, it seems to show up all over.
Yeah.
No, that's just life reflecting back to us. So if it's showing up in your partner, it might be exaggerated 10 times, but find it in yourself and then focus there and appreciate that part of you, love that part of you, because whatever it is, it needs more love, not less.
I love what you're sharing. It's really extremely profound. Not sure whether listeners are getting the goosebumps that I'm getting. It's true, because I think what happens is, I know I certainly do that, and we go into a blaming mode and we play victim.
Yes.
And what you're saying is, instead of pointing at your partner, which I'm sure we all do, look at how you are not owning that part that you're pointing at. So you mentioned responsibility, or your partner's so irresponsible. How are you irresponsible? And that is really, if not, the most important aha people can get from this show today, that your partners are just a reflection of what you need to do for yourself.
Exactly. And it's not easy. It is a practice. So even though I've been doing this for years, I'm pretty good at it. I'll say that. My mate and I never really are mad at each other for very long. It might be 5 minutes. It might be, if it's really, really bad, it might be an evening. And that's the extent of it, because I have these tools and I use them. And the faster and better I use them, the faster whatever it is that we have a disagreement about. And then we come together and we have a tender reconciliation when we come back together. So we're using each other as a growth edge, and we're not perfect.
That's great. I really love this piece of insight. And sometimes, you think you know all these things, but you really do need to be reminded of this again and again, and to practice this in our lives. So, as women, we sometimes do worry of overindulgence. Is it possible that we can love ourselves to the point of becoming selfish? How can we love ourselves without actually feeling that we are being selfish?
Yes, that's a wonderful question, because that is on a lot of people's minds. And one of the things about being selfish is when we stop being separate from source, we become very expansive. We have so much more to give when our cups are full. So if you think of a full cup, if you pour more into it, it overflows easily. If our cup is empty, we have to fill our cup before we can give anything. So by taking care of our needs, we can fulfill ourselves so our cup can overflow easily without draining us, and where we can do it without losing our energy and having to stop and fill ourselves back up again. We can stay fulfilled. So it has a lot to do with not being separate.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, because I think we do think that loving ourselves, there's like a limit of too much. I think in this case, the overflowing really helps us to give from a place of abundance without feeling drained. And so many people who come to me in my work, they are just so depleted, they're exhausted, they're exasperated, and they really, what they're doing is overgiving in their lives to other people from a place of not taking care of themselves. So I call them dried prunes. They really so shrivel up, and this is definitely not good for them. So more with Nina Porter after this break. You can find her at playinyourmarriage.com.
Edge of Conscious Radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio, IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meet. We are with Nina Porter, and we're talking about how you can love your partner back to save your marriage today, and you can find her at playinyourmarriage.com. And just before break, we were beginning to talk about so many important things. We're talking about how your partner is a mirror of who you are, and whatever you seek in your partner, you can find within yourself. And it's really about owning all of it instead of looking for external validation, and acknowledging your partner as a mirror of what you truly need to work on yourself. We also talked about selfishness and whether self-love is selfish, and the conclusion is no. We all need to come from a place of overflowing and abundance so that we give to other people without feeling drained. So today's this show always explores the link between sexuality and spirituality, and our relationship is a part of our sexuality. So I'm very curious to hear from you, Nina, what you feel is the link between sex, relationship, and with our spirituality.
That is such an interesting, that's good, that goes so deep. And I see sex as being very vulnerable and opening. Now that's when you're in a safe relationship. If you're in a superficial relationship where neither person is risking or being vulnerable, then you're not going to have this experience, because then it's all about a performance. But when I'm talking about in a committed relationship where you're secure with each other, sex becomes an exploration. You become vulnerable, and when you're vulnerable, it implies a surrendering. And to me, that's a very spiritual thing, to surrender, to let go, and to allow is a very spiritual thing. And our bodies are not something that should be gotten rid of. We have a body for a reason. We're here experiencing it's sort of like we're the embodiment, or the single point of our Creator. We're experiencing for and as our Creator. So when we're in a body, that's part of the experience. And sexuality is a very big part of our physical experience. I mean, even children are curious and exploring their bodies. And, age appropriate, children are curious about each other and are learning, but our culture has turned it into something that's very negative. And it shows up in so many destructive ways. When we can honor our physical bodies and treat them with reverence and respect, kind of that idea that our body is a temple. Well, if we have sex parts, then that's part of our temple, and it's part of what we can be exploring. And in sharing and in having this adventure and exploration with a beloved partner, where we're opening to our partner and we're surrendering to them, it's a surrendering to our Creator at the same time.
Beautiful. This is really very spiritual, what you're saying, and I cannot help but think about some of the people that I know of who are quite religious, and it's quite unfortunate that they don't see how honoring our body is a form of reverence and respect for what we are given. And instead, some spiritual people shut down their sexuality. And so I really appreciate what you're sharing. So anyway, this actually came out as you were saying all these things.
There's a deep irony in there too, in that when couples were polled privately, what they found was that very fundamentalist Christians that have sexuality within their marriage actually had richer, more interesting, juicier sex than most single people and couples in non-religious relationships. I thought that was really, really interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I really feel that when we are in a safe relationship, this is when we can go very deep within ourselves and really have that surrendering, letting go, and allowing that you're talking about. It's really like having that safety net of feeling that when you are so vulnerable and open, that your partner will be there to catch you.
Yes.
What happens, whether you start laughing or you start crying, that your partner will be that container for you. So I really see long-term relationships as being able to provide that juiciness and that richness and depth that you're talking about. Beautiful.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. If you have a chance to compare, nothing like having a partner there who is receiving all of you, and where you're receiving all of them.
Mm. Beautiful. Okay, so I know you're working on your book, and it's called "How to Never Be Unhappy in a Relationship Again." How is it going?
Well, it's been slow writing because I got very distracted when I got more busy with my practice. So I've just started back into the writing phase of it again. I've got so much material, I'm having to pick and choose what's going to go in there because there's just so much rich juiciness that follows what I've been talking about on the show here today, about it being, we have a choice as far as our attitude. You know, I think back about a famous book written by, I'm trying to think of his name. I know it so well, I forget. He was in a Jewish concentration camp, Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Yes. And how, in spite of his horrific surroundings, he said the one thing they couldn't take from him was his choice of attitude, and he chose to give and he chose to love. So he looked for opportunities to love and support. He had compassion for his captors and his jailers, and he found he was more free than they were because of this. And I don't think, you know, in our everyday lives, because they're really so cushy, we complain about the mildest things. We don't take time to have gratitude and appreciation for the freedom we have to be creators. We're so tied up with thinking we're victims that we forget, wait a minute, I have the freedom to create, and whatever we have created, we've put ourselves in this situation. Somehow we're here because of the choices we've made up until this moment put us in this spot we're in. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who have been true victims. I'm not talking about those cases where someone's kidnapped or something. I'm talking about most of us have pretty cushy, easy lives. If we're sitting here listening to a radio show about love, we're probably in a pretty good place compared to most people. We've got food, we've got shelter and clothing, and we probably have a loved one. So we're in a pretty great place, and yet it's easy to fall into that trap. So the first place to not be unhappy in our relationship is to find our gratitude and our appreciation, to engage in true care instead of overcare, which we talked about in the last segment, where we're giving true care where we're energized by our care. And anyone who's ever taken care of a child can probably relate to that, where we feel better afterward. We feel good about ourselves rather than drained. When we're in overcare, it drains us. So being mindful of being in true care, where we're energized by it, and that takes being in tune with our own joy and knowing what we want at a deep level.
Great. And is it really possible, you feel, to never be unhappy? A lot of people feel they need their partner to do what they want, how they want it, when they want it. What do you have to say about never be unhappy again?
Yeah. Well, I tell you how. I'm not saying that it's easy to do. It's relatively simple. It's not easy, and it takes constant practice, and it may not be attained in your lifetime. And yet, as you practice it, you become more and more and more happy, and the unhappiness gets less and less and less. So it's a process leading you to, so this is the how of how to do it, how to get there. And ultimately is our choice. So it is attainable. It's just most of us have a lot of growing to do. And I think our growth edge is a place to celebrate. And if you think of a gratitude triangle, I'm hoping we have enough time for me to go through this. A gratitude triangle where one corner of that triangle is what's easy to be grateful for. One corner of the triangle, it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that was uncomfortable. I grew there. I can find the gratitude in it. Okay, grudgingly, I can find the gratitude there. And the third corner is the magic corner, because that's where we can find gratitude for the growth we're going to get. I can't appreciate what's happening right now. I can't appreciate that my husband is not getting a job, or that my wife is refusing to have sex with me. Whatever it is, those are kind of, what do you call it? The word, obvious,
Magic.
I don't have the word for it right now, but it's almost like a cartoon, okay, like a cartoon of people. But when we can find our gratitude for the growth.
So more with this after this break with Nina Porter.
Lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Alicia Isaacs-Howes.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. You can find us every week here on Om Times Radio at Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. We're talking about how you can love your partner back to save your marriage today with Nina Porter. And she's offering a 5-part e-course on getting the love you need, as well as a special report on 5 things to stop doing if your relationship is troubled, along with several other favorite tools that she offers on her website at playinyourmarriage.com. Just before break, we were talking about finding gratitude, appreciation in your relationships. And she also talked about the difference between true care versus overcare. And she shared the gratitude triangle with the top being easy ways to find your gratitude. The next one is difficult. And the last corner being a magic corner of what you're going to get in having gratitude. And this is a very important insight to really appreciating the different facets of gratitude. And Nina is working on her book called How to Never Be Unhappy in a Relationship Again. And she's really talking about the importance of love and self-love today in this show. We're into the last 10 minutes of this show, and so I really want to ask Nina, just before you leave us, how we can make sure we get the love that we need.
Yes, it's so critical, and that love comes from within when we can connect. So when we're not feeling loved, or when we're feeling a longing for that love, if we can connect with that inner, we all have an inner child within us. We have thousands of them, but I don't want to get into parts. But we have this inner smaller, younger, vulnerable me that's been there since we've been a child, that's needing attention. And when we're needing that attention, and all of us have it, we all need it, and when we can turn inward to that part of us and ask that part of us what it needs, and treat it the way we would a lovely, vulnerable little child. One way to think about it is don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to your best friend's 4-year-old. I love that concept. But going within and finding that younger you and saying, what do you need, honey? What is it that you're needing right now? And then giving that to yourself. It opens you up to share more with your partner. It allows you to let your partner know what it is you're looking for. If you're needing some attention, it allows you to get the attention in a way that's appropriate, that's respectful, and that's likely to get answered. If we're just acting out without thinking and we're poking our partner for that attention, which is a lot of, it's how we learn to do it. If you think about a little kid, how do they get attention if they're not getting it? They act out, right? Mm. They pull on your leg, they scream. You see kids in public a lot. They're needing attention, they're needing love. They have a need that they need filled. And if you can imagine having that inside of you, you can turn within instead of going out and trying to get it from someone else. Whenever someone's trying to get something from us, it doesn't feel good, does it? Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable. And when we're trying to get love from our partner, it doesn't feel good to them either. When we come from a place of sharing the love we have, it gets mirrored back to us. So it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is the reflection that what we're getting what we're seeing in our relationships are a reflection of who we're being. So when we love ourselves, when we turn in and ask ourselves, what do you need, honey? What is it? What do you need right now? And we hold ourselves. It allows us to come to a place of love so that we can now share the love we have with our partner, and that will reflect back to us then. That love that we're sharing, because we're sharing the love we have instead of trying to get it from someone, they will then reflect that back. And if you think about it, people you know that are really, really very healthy and share the love they have, don't you just adore them? You love being around them. When you're with them, you just reflect all that love back to them.
Yes. So it's that kind of pure love and joy, which is not needy and hooky. I call it hook. It's like a hook.
Yeah. And people use sex for that, don't they? When they're trying to perform and they're trying to get acceptance and they're trying to get love through sex, instead of loving themselves, sharing the love they have, and then going to that vulnerable and surrendering place, and then they're able to receive it. When they're able to share it, they're able to receive it.
Okay. So what you're saying is, to get the love that we need to get in touch with our inner child and to ask what he or she needs, and then feed that part of us.
Yes, we can give that to ourselves, and then we'll have enough love to share, and then it will get reflected back to us even more. So it's like an investment that you get paid back 10 times.
Okay. I like what you're saying. Beautiful. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of the show, and I want to make sure that listeners have a good idea of what you do and how they can engage with you. I know that you offer phone and Skype sessions, and you also offer couple retreats on sailboats and resorts. So tell some of our listeners out there, they may never have worked with a sex or relationship coach for that matter. So tell them a little bit what they can expect in working with a relationship coach like yourself.
Well, it's very individual for everyone. However, in a coaching model is a little different from a therapy model in that we look at what actions to take and what steps to take. I give tools to bridge the gaps, and it comes from a very practical place. So I know that on this call I was kind of theoretical, but when we're actually working together in a coaching, then I have a one-to-one relationship where I can give practical, specific steps for the level that they're at. So I do offer a free consultation to assess if we're a good fit, where I can find out what the person needs. If we're a good fit, they can see if they like working with me before we actually make a decision to go forward and work together. So I do offer that. I'm easy to contact by email or through my website, and that can be easily arranged to schedule on my scheduler, and then we take it from there. If you want to know more about me, you can follow my blogs. I welcome questions. If you want to email a question or comment on a blog, ask a question, I welcome that, and want to make sure that you're getting the benefit of stepping up and asking and being curious, because that's where it all starts.
Great. So thank you so much for coming onto today's show, and Nina, and people can find you at playinyourmarriage.com. So I have a little shout out of my own. I have a tele-summit that I am doing with my friend Robbie Vergor, and she was actually on this show previously. And in this tele-summit, we are interviewing 14 different people over 7 days, and each day we're releasing 2 interviews, so people can find out more about this telesummit by going to register at makeloveweek.com. So in Make Love Week, whole week, we have 2 interviews per day, 14 interviews, and we're talking all about how you can have more love and better sex in your life. Next week, I'll be talking about orgasmic yoga. Some of you may know that May is Masturbation Month in the US, and now it has actually become official where May is International Masturbation Month. And in my work, I do talk quite a lot about masturbation, and in my second book, Orgasmic Yoga, I talk about how people can have stronger, longer, more consistent and bigger orgasms in their lives through 7 different practices, predominantly 7 different practices. And so next week in Eros Evolution, we're going to be talking about orgasmic yoga, where masturbation meets with meditation. And orgasmic yoga is a very spiritual practice that has changed my life, and is a very deep practice of self-love for me. And in May, I'm going to start a 30-day orgasmic yoga journey from the 22nd of May. And we're going to talk more about it in next week's show called Orgasmic Yoga. So be sure to stay tuned to Eros Evolution. This is where we always talk about the link between sex and spirituality. And this is where I have different guests coming on and talking about this link as well. So this has been Dr. Martha Tara Lee. And do stay tuned next week to Eros Evolution. Have a great week ahead.